Welcome back. I've argued for years, that trading Jack Eichel would be a foolish mistake by the Buffalo Sabres. And here we are, right? Then this summer, and it's gonna be the talk of the summer. Kevin Adams has said he's not going to trade him. Elliot Friedman said they're not going to admit it publicly, but they'd like to trade him. And it's been quite the era. It's been 6 seasons, and we're where we're at. Now, my argument against trading Jack Eichel has always been I think this guy is a fantastic talent. I think he's only going to get better. And trading him I think that would set the team back. I think that would hurt them long term more than it would help. And again, that's all up for debate. It's all and before trades take place, even when trades take place, we get into who won and who lost and all this wonderful stuff. It can change quickly. Look at the New York Islanders. Tavares goes to Toronto, and now the Islanders look like cup contenders. And of course, Tavares and Toronto, they've been good during the regular season, but they've struggled in the postseason. Now for Eichel, he dreams of even getting to a struggling postseason, right? So I don't really need to go through all the numbers because we know the numbers, right? The numbers for Eichel are good, but would they be better on a contending team? And that's where the whole argument comes in as well. Having watched hockey for a very long time, I know there's been a lot of players who go from one team to another, and the expectation is, well, he's going to score a lot more there because they're a good team. Where in reality, when a player goes from a not very good team to a very good team, he might be used less. He might not get the same amount of power play time. He might not have the same opportunities. So yes, he may score better if you're in the advanced stats community and you're looking at points per 60 minutes or goals per 60 minutes, but their overall numbers may not improve by that much. So his rookie year, 56 points in 81 games, 8 power play goals. And the interesting thing to me with Jack Eichel is looking at his power play goals and how they've fluctuated, and yet his goal totals stay about the same. So he was on the all-rookie team, and he was 4th in Calder voting. And 81 games, good, solid, healthy season. But then the following 2 seasons, he misses an extended period of time due to injuries, which is one red flag. One red flag I have with Eichel is the fact that, yes, he does tend to get hurt. So he has almost a point a game both seasons, 10 power play goals in his second season, only 3 the third season. So 2017-2018, he had 25 goals, comparatively speaking, with 24 the year before. But he had 7 less goals on the power play, meaning he scored really well 5-on-5. So this is one of those things too, where if you're a GM, this has to give you a headache of, okay, so he didn't score well on the power play, or power play wasn't very good. Is it his fault our power play wasn't very good, or is it that I didn't put him with the good enough players in order to get him wide open so he can score those power play markers? And that's what'll keep a GM up, right? So his following year, 2018-2019, 77 games, 82 points altogether, 8 power play goals, and that might be his best season so far. His 303 shots were 5th in the league in shots taken. So he's willing to shoot from all over the ice, and he's a first-line center. And he's a good first-line center. How good is he? I don't think we know yet, and I think the injuries have hurt. So this year he just plays the 21 games, just had 1 power play goal out of the 2 goals he had, 18 points. And this year it was just kind of a mess, right? So we're watching and it's like, okay, so what's going on with Eichel? Nothing. Is Eichel hurt? Nope, he's not hurt. And then it started to trickle out of, he's fighting something. He's got a nagging injury. And then it's, he's going to be out for the rest of the year. And now there's this disconnect between Eichel, who wants to have surgery done that nobody's had done as a professional athlete, that they look at and they go, okay, we don't know what kind of recovery time we're looking at. We don't know if this is going to work. And Eichel's saying, no, I'm going to do this. They want him to rehab. Want him to go through rehab and go through non-surgical options or a surgical option that they're more familiar with. And so this is where the disconnect comes in. And I think this makes it really hard to trade him. This has to make it difficult to trade him. So let's say right now, as I'm recording this, the rumor is Chicago. So you're like, okay, Stan Bowman's going to make the call. Kevin Adams says, okay, we want your first round pick, a Kirby Doc, and we'll throw in Alex Nylander, just as an example, right? So he's like, all right, well, that sounds pretty reasonable because Doc is a good young forward, but this is a center who can come in and play first-line center for us. We don't think Jonathan Toews is coming back. And that's the other part of this, right, is if Chicago's looking to add this kind of salary, that tells me, as other fans have read between the lines, Toews isn't coming back. That's that's the big takeaway from all this. Isn't just the idea of Eichel being traded, but does that mean Taves isn't coming back? So we'll see what happens with that, right? Now, this is a forward who turns 25 on October 28th. So the odds that we've seen the best from him, about 50-50. You look at guys' careers, early on in their career, you will normally get some of the best years for their production, but they're normally pretty good at producing points into their late 20s, right? I've always been surprised at how many players their best point production is when they're 22, 23, 24, and then it just falls off. And whether it's because they become a better all-around player, which I think is often the case, maybe they're a little less selfish out there, they're looking for wins more than they're looking for points. It is just one of those curiosities when it comes to hockey. Now, there are drawbacks. There are. Not here. 9 game-winning goals in 2019-2020, which was third. So he's a good clutch scorer, and he was 8th in Hart voting, which is 8th, but still for a team that finished 25th in the overall standings, didn't make it to a playoffs where the NHL invited 24 teams and just said, Buffalo, you're the last one below that cut line. It is remarkable he finishes 8th in Hart voting. Shows people realize how important he is to the Buffalo Sabres. But there are drawbacks. Now, most of his advanced stats are good. I looked through them, most of them are good, right? There's not anything in the Corsi Fenwick stuff that's going to make you say, oh, stay away from this guy. The interesting thing is his face-offs, not good. For his career, 44.2%. Now, this year, in just the 21 games, his face-off percentage was actually 49.7%. So he's almost up to 50%. But that's a problem. We're watching in the playoffs with Nick Suzuki, where he has problems with face-offs, and it means that in big situations, Montreal has to go to Philippe Danault to take the big defensive face-off. If you are acquiring Jack Eichel, you may very well be putting yourself in a position where your number one center is not the guy taking the key face-offs in big games. And that, to me, is a little bit of a red flag if I'm a GM, as to why I maybe don't look to include, as much as what Buffalo's going to ask. In his career, 251 hits, not too shabby. He's not scared of throwing a hit. 203 career block shots. Again, not bad. His average ice time throughout his career, 20 minutes and 19 seconds. So he plays a lot of hockey. He's out there a ton. He's been double shifted during his career in Buffalo. And part of it is probably because they don't have anybody else they can go to that they trust as much as they trust Eichel. So the question becomes, with the injuries, is some of that being worn down? Is some of it maybe poor, how do I put this? Maybe not necessarily poor conditioning, but is it a conditioning issue based on Eichel? Is it something in Buffalo with Buffalo's training staff? Is it something that you acquiring the player can fix? Because again, if I'm Buffalo and I'm looking at this, I realize he could go somewhere else and score 90 points. He could go to a really good team and score 40 goals. He had 36 goals in 68 games last season. It's not that far off. It's a very similar situation to Josh Anderson going to Montreal, and Josh Anderson had a good goal-scoring year in Montreal during the regular season, and he's been a part of that team making it to the semifinals. Eichel is a much better player than Josh Anderson, so you don't want to be left looking bad. Kevin Adams right now is in a really tough position. Look at this team's standing in the years with Eichel. 23rd, his first year there in 2015-2016. That's the highest they finished in the standings the entire time. 26th in 2016-2017, 31st the year after that, 27th the year after, 25th last year, and this year back to 31st. With that, 18-game losing streak in the middle there? It's been rough. So the question you really have to ask is that if somebody calls Kevin Adams and says, all right, here's what we're offering, how high does that price have to be in order to give him up? And then just to add more sabotage to the whole thing, there's the $10 million cap hit till 2026, which if he's healthy and he's playing as well as he did last year, that's a reasonable cap hit for him. He's a superstar first-line center. But there's the no movement clause that kicks in after next season, and there's the fact that he's coming off of a season where he only played 21 out of 56 games. And there is still this cloud of uncertainty regarding his health and regarding how many games he'll be able to play next season and when he'll be ready to go. Buffalo, to me, and I say this again, I honestly don't think trading Eichel makes any sense. Unless you can get a king's ransom, unless you can get top-notch prospects, first-round draft pick, and other pieces there to make your team good now and make your team good later, I don't see any reason to do it. I compare it with Colorado with Matt Duchene. And again, I would not put Matt Duchene in Jack Eichel's category. I have Eichel ahead of Duchene in that category. Colorado made out like bandits in that whole thing. When Joe Sakic traded Matt Duchene, that was one of the best trades I've seen in my time watching hockey, where he got everything he needed. He got the future, he got the now, and he fixed a lot of parts of the roster. If Eichel gets traded, you have to do that, and you have to do it on a grander scale, because I think Eichel has to be worth more than Matt Duchene was. I think when it comes down to how this is going to work, I think it'll probably be a 3-team trade with that $10 million cap hit. Maybe you bring in an Ottawa. Maybe you bring in a Detroit, and you have some of that cap money parked with them. Maybe Buffalo retains a little bit as well, just to goose it up a bit and make sure you can get every dollar of return on Jack Eichel that you should. And again, I really think that Jack Eichel could be a top 10 center in the league again. I've had him in the top 10 centers in the league. I would not have him there this year. I'm not doing the top 10 centers and wingers and all that. I don't have to do that this summer. I'm not doing it this summer. Next summer, that can return. But yeah, I really think he still has that ability. He's only 24. He's the same age as Kaprizov is right now. Kaprizov just turned 24. And if I told anybody, well, this is probably the best Kaprizov's ever going to get, he would rightfully look at me like I have 3 heads. So it is a challenge for the Sabres. It's a challenge for Kevyn Adams. Because again, I do think the player wants out. I think that's part of it too. Even if the general manager is saying, I don't want to trade him, and I have no reason to think that he's not telling the truth. If the player is looking at this situation and going, I'd rather not come back to Buffalo, especially if he feels that the medical staff in Buffalo is not taking this serious. If he feels that Buffalo is not giving him proper advice when it comes to how to fix his injury, that just makes it that much worse, right? So we'll see what happens. Again, if it was me that was calling the shots in Buffalo, I would do everything I could to mend this relationship and try to fix things going forward. There have been times over the years that he's been in Buffalo where Buffalo's looked like a very good team. They've got off to very good starts. I talked about that in a video a few days ago. But it's a matter of being able to finish it. And I really don't blame it on Eichel. And I've never blamed the failures of the Buffalo Sabres on Eichel. Because he has this ability to go beast mode, which is when you have the puck and you're strong on the puck and nobody's taking it away from you. And Eichel has an ability to do that there are other centers can do it. Bergeron comes to mind. Barkov comes to mind. Obviously McDavid, Matthews. But he has that ability as well. He can be a game changer. And so if you trade him to a franchise where he may be in a in a winning environment, it is possible that trade comes back to haunt Buffalo within months. Where, let's say he gets traded in September. We could look back in December and go, wow, they didn't get enough for Eichel. Because one of the worst things to do, and that's that fine line, and again, it reminds me of the Duchene thing. You don't want to hold on to an asset too long and then get nothing for him. But you also don't want to make a trade quickly and end up not getting back enough. And look back and go, man. And Buffalo's had this problem before. I refer back to the Ryan O'Reilly deal. Where, yeah, they had to make a move and they traded out O'Reilly. But man, they did not get back enough value. And for Kevyn Adams, his job likely hinges on how well he does here. If he doesn't get enough for Eichel, he's out of a job. If he holds on to Eichel and Eichel stays on the sidelines and he continues to bicker over how to fix herniated disc in his neck, I don't think that costs Kevyn Adams his job. But a bad trade with Eichel absolutely could. It's not a job that a lot of people, I think, would want to have to take on. I admire Adams for being willing to take it over. And in Eichel's case, I really think he can be one of the best players, and I hope they get it all worked out. Because seeing success for Buffalo with Eichel in the lineup would feel pretty good. For me, somebody who's not a Buffalo fan, but as a Canuck fan, there's sort of this connection between Buffalo and Vancouver. And right now, over the last few years, it's felt like it's a pretty strong connection between those two franchises. it'd be nice to see Buffalo turn it around. And if they trade him and they get back the right pieces, they absolutely could. But if he gets healthy and he plays like he did a year ago, it's not that long ago, only a year ago, they can get back in the hunt as well. But they have to surround him with the right players. And all of this kind of distracts from the fact that the supporting cast just hasn't been good enough in Buffalo. At times, the goaltending hasn't been good enough. And the defense has been kind of a mess through large portions of the last 5 years. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. And again, I would love to speculate on what it takes for Eichel. I think it's a king's ransom. I think in order to get him out of Buffalo, it should be. Because you may very well be getting a top 10 center in the NHL who's 24 years of age. And you only get to trade him once. Thank you guys so much for all your support. And I'm amazed at how many people underestimate Eichel coming off of one really poor injury-riddled season. But GMs may be doing it too. Watch for those offers that aren't quite up to par. So the question I have too is Eichel still a member of the Sabres to start next season? Let me know your prediction in the comment section below. I might even make a poll on that. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.